Hey there everyone, it's Corinna from My Digital Farmer. I hope you're having a great Friday. I thought I would hop in today kind of spontaneously to talk about the impact of the coronavirus and specifically how it relates to the way that you should be messaging, spinning your message in light of the coronavirus. I know that this is a question that my husband and I have been thinking through the last few days, and I suspect that it's something that you've been struggling with too. Maybe you're asking yourself, do I say anything at all? Do I bring it up? There's just so much talk about coronavirus right now that people are, you may be wondering, should I even bring it up? Like, I don't want to saturate the news media anymore or create any more panic simply by bringing it up again. You may be wondering, is this going to affect my bottom line? Like, am I not going to make as much money? Like, what's going to happen? The fear of the unknown. If you're feeling that, that is totally normal. You know, you're probably wondering, is it going to keep customers away? Are some of my customers going to get sick? Am I going to get sick, right? What should I say as a brand? Should I say anything at all? Are these all questions that are spinning around in your mind? If they are, you're not normal. We aren't probably prepared for something like this. And so I thought I would step in here and kind of just share some of my thoughts about how to maybe think about this issue. And then I'm going to talk about a few ideas at the end specifically for how you can perhaps message in the midst of this particular situation. Now, I know it may feel like you don't have any control over the circumstances, right? Like, I know in the state of Ohio, which is where I live, our governor just announced yesterday that they're shutting schools down on Tuesday for 3 weeks, like schools shutting down. So my kids are going to be home for 3 weeks. And I'm just thinking about the impact of all the parents who who are working, who have to suddenly figure out, how can I have childcare for my kids? And then they can't send their kids to a childcare place because that would be breaking the rule of like too many people in one area. I mean, it's going to be a big impact. Okay. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, like I can't control these circumstances. This stuff is just happening to me and I don't know what to do. And so it's really easy to feel like you don't have any power. But the thing is, what I want to encourage you today is that you do have some power, specifically over your mindset and over how you message. So no, you can't control the circumstances, but you can control your actions and your words and how you respond. So I hope that these words that I'm going to share with you now can kind of guide you and maybe encourage you. So first of all, let's just real briefly talk about the operations part of this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because this is not my strength zone. I'm really more on the messaging and the marketing side, but you know, I'm sure that you follow GAP protocols. So if you have those in place, you already know how to handle situations like this with food safety. You probably have those procedures in place to make sure that the food that you're producing and bringing to market or wherever you're bringing it right now is safe. Okay, so just keep following those. And then there's the obvious things like if you're sick, like don't go to market. Okay, don't be preparing the stuff if you're not feeling well. And you're just going to have to take a loss for the 2 weeks that it takes for you to get better if you end up getting this thing. All right. Avoid using cash if you can. Don't offer like free samples at the market. Have hand sanitizer. Have a contingency plan in place or start thinking about one in case this thing goes on for several weeks. Okay. But you don't have to freak out yet. Like there's still time to create a plan. All right. So there's this whole operations side, but I want us to think about the messaging side too. Okay. I want you to remember, number one, that the traffic will likely decrease to your markets in the upcoming weeks. That's just kind of a fact. So just know that, prepare for that. And we're going to, come up with some contingency plans to try and counteract that as much as possible. But here's the thing, people are still going to need to eat, right? They're still going to have to consume food. And I feel like you are well positioned because if someone is presented with the option to go to a grocery store that's crammed full of food or to your market or to your farm and pick up something, you probably have the edge there. So this is an opportunity for you down the road. If this goes on for a long time, you could actually be in a really good spot because people may be more likely to come and buy from you as a local grower. I also want you to remember that this crisis, the virus, will eventually go away. It will abate, probably in at least 2 months' time at the longest, right? Hopefully sooner than that. So this too shall pass, and we will figure out a way to get through it. And we will look back on this story and we will learn from it. And I really feel like there is an opportunity here in the midst of this for us to win in the long game. So we may feel like we lose this battle, but we're going to win the war later, right? We're going to maybe take a loss right now, but there's an opportunity later with our messaging to point back to this and help people kind of see why the value of local food is so important. Okay, so let's talk about some of my specific kind of strategies here. Do you say anything at all? Okay, this is a question that has been going around in my mind. Do I even bring it up yet? Do I add to the panic? So I have received emails from my bank, from my investment company, from my school, from several retail businesses. I've seen lots of posts from all different kinds of businesses on my newsfeed. I feel like everyone feels like they need to make a statement. And I have to be honest, I haven't opened any of those emails. I've just kind of seen in the subject line that they want to talk to me about it. And my first instinct is like, ugh, like I roll my eyes like, not again. Because I'm really personally just trying not to let the messaging and the panic like overwhelm me. I'm like, I will not let it give me that control. So I bring this up because I just want you to be sensitive to the reality of coronavirus fatigue, right? Like just there's a lot of messaging about it right now. And I think that that's out there. I'm seeing comments on, at least on the news feeds that I follow, people like, oh my gosh, like 80% of my news feed is like coronavirus memes, okay? Or something about the coronavirus. So just be aware that that's there. And maybe you don't have to say anything yet, or depending on what you're doing right now with your business, you may not need to make a big deal about it. So like in our case, we're just a CSA and we don't start until June. Most of our sales are in. And so I have not really super invested in this conversation with my members because there isn't any reason for them to have to come and buy from me every week yet, right? Like I'm not going to the markets right now. So I haven't felt like I needed to address it. So you may not need to bring it up in a very direct way. So I just want to make you aware of that don't feel like you have to have an official like response as a business. I don't think that all of you have to. However, I think that you have an opportunity here to frame the message for good, but also for ill, okay? So you can either be a part of the calming of the panic, or you can be a part of feeding the beast and accentuating it. So just be aware of that there is a way for you to talk about it that just creates more hype. And then there's a way for you to talk about it that creates a sense of, hey, it's all good. Like we've got control of this. So if you are going to talk about it, what I think you should do is bring it up, but be matter of fact about it. Don't blow it out of proportion, address it quickly, but then move on. So I think that if you have a customer, if you're like, let's say you're going to the farmer's market or you're already doing CSA deliveries right now, I think there's a couple of things that your customer needs to hear from you. Number one, I think that they need to be reassured. So you need to reassure your customer that you have a plan, okay? That you are in control of the situation. And so this can just be simply where you tell them, hey, we follow GAP's, protocols. This is kind of our extra measures that we're taking right now, but not spending a ton of time talking about it, okay? Because if you spend paragraphs and paragraphs of text in an email going on and on about it, you just end up creating like crazy hype, in my opinion, okay? So this is what I would say, but I do think the customer just needs a quick reassurance that you know what you're doing, that you have a plan for this, and that you're executing on it. I think the second thing that a customer is looking for is that they want to see confidence from you. Okay, so they're looking for you to be a guide. So you have an opportunity here to spin this story in light of a bigger mission and bigger vision, right? So you can talk about the power of local and why it matters that we are buying from our local farmer, okay? So I'm reminded of last summer when we had the big floods in Ohio, and it affected a lot of growers. And I remember getting in front of my audience, in front of my members, and I addressed it because we had some crop failures. And I'm like, okay, how do I talk to them about this negative story and yet not let them be discouraged? And I remember being very deliberate. Like I made sure I told them, listen, we've got a plan. Like you're going to see lower boxes for a couple weeks, but here's our plan for getting back on track. And then I invited them into this bigger mission of supporting the local farmer. I was like, this is why we're so glad that you're a part of our farm, because you are supporting us through this difficult time. And those customers responded so well to that. And I think this is another moment where that kind of thing can happen, where you can like lean into that story of, hey, this is why it matters that you support the local farm, because when things like this happen, like we become stronger when we're a small community and we can, support the local food chain and be there for one another. Like we're gonna have your back as a food producer. We'll be able to provide for you. Okay, so when you invite them into that story and you applaud them for being a part of that bigger mission, it just blows open the doors, okay? And it spins this negative story into a positive one. And it just helps them feel like they have power to do something. They can make a decision in their minds to be one of those kinds of supporters. So that's the other thing that I think you might want to think about as you're imagining, what does my customer need from you? They need to know the plan. They need to know that you're in control and you're going to reassure them, but they also want you to inspire them and show them the bigger picture. Remind them of why it matters that they're behind you. This is a chance for you to just rah-rah them and make them feel good about their decision to stand behind you, okay? So there was a post in our group. Noah Jackson shared an email that he wrote to his farm. I don't know if you guys read it yet. I encourage you to go look at that because I read it and it was very long, which is a good thing. I'll tell you why in a second. So he spent a lot of time talking about basically like almost like a newsletter of what was going on at the farm this week. And he addressed the coronavirus issue on the front end. Okay, he spent about a paragraph talking about it. He did this very thing. He talked about his plan, like what they're doing, reassured them, hey, we got this. And then he spent about 75% of the rest of the email talking about all the other cool stuff going on the farm, other things they've been working on, building projects, this. So that by the time I got to the end, and it was a pretty long newsletter email, but by the time I got to the end, the effect was that the coronavirus stuff at the beginning had been minimized because it was only given like this much, and then the rest of it was like, right? And so it just had this feeling of, hey, there's so much more stuff going on here that's almost more important than this. Like life carries on in spite of this, and we are on track for getting, a great season together. And so that's what I thought was really powerful about that strategy. And I don't know if Noah meant to do it that way, but that's the effect that it had on me. And so that's just something to think about if you are going to write about this, to encase it in a longer message that has other stuff that just kind of showcases that, hey, there's way more going on here than just this one small aspect of the food story. So I did want to say that. There's a company in town here called Wine Flight. It's a local bar, and they're still open for business. And so they put a post out today that I was reading, how they're addressing it. And they made a formal post and talked about it. And I think what they were trying to let people know is like, hey, we're still open for business. Don't assume that because there's this ban of 100 people or more that we can't like still go and have some wine together. And the way they did it, again, they just gave a reassurance like, hey, like we have a plan. Like this is what we do when things like this happen. We sanitize stuff. Like we keep our restaurant clean, and we're doing these extra measures in light of the story, but we're not too worried. We're not overly concerned, and we're not going to be a part of the panic. And so we just want to encourage you to come on by, and we're open for business. And then they had like a little incentive. But I just loved how they just minimized it in the way they talked about it. They addressed it. And they're like, yeah, we know it's there, but here's what we're doing about it. And then they just made it sound like it wasn't a super big deal. And that, as a consumer, because I go there and I plan to go there tonight, I was like, thank you. Finally somebody who is just being relaxed and cool about this whole situation. That's kind of like what I would like to see. So, okay, I have another story that I want to share with you real quick because I think it kind of aligns with this. I want to go back to that point I made about how you have an opportunity in this moment to either frame the message for good or for ill, so you can calm the panic or you can accentuate it and feed the beast. So I want to share a story real quick about when I used to be a youth minister, and we would go on mission trips every summer with our students. And one year we went to Mexico to build some houses, and we came back from across the border after finishing the mission trip, built the house. And the day before we were supposed to leave to head back home, we were in El Paso, and one of my four adult leaders, he was an elderly gentleman, like 65, 70 years old, and he passed out. He just passed out in a restaurant, and we thought he was having a heart attack or stroke or something. And so he was rushed to the hospital. And I remember in that moment, as the leader of this whole tribe of people, my initial thought was, okay, I need to make sure that Dave gets to help, and we need to figure that out. But I was also concerned about the rest of my students and the rest of my team, because I didn't want to create a panic. And we had actually talked about this before it even happened. We went through what if scenarios, and this was a what if scenario with my leadership team. And we had said, hey, if there's something like this, there's kind of two things we have to think about. We have to deal with the emergency and address it, but we also have to have a strategy and make sure that we keep the kids calm and keep them busy and focused on something else, so that their minds don't start spinning and all they think about is, oh my gosh, Mr. Christie is really sick, right? And so when that happened, that's exactly what we did. I turned to my team and I said, okay, you guys, you are taking the kids. We're going over here. We're going to let them know what's going on with Mr. Christie. We're going to keep it short and simple. We're going to know he's going to be okay. We are confident there's a plan. He's not going to die, all right? And then give them an activity so that we can focus on something else. And so that's sort of similar right now. I feel like we want to just give our people the plan, tell them short and sweet what they need to know, but then we need to, I don't want to say distract them, but we just need to move on with our messaging, with our business as usual. Okay. So before I let you go, I want to just share some specific things here that I think you can consider. So ways that you can tell this message and spin this message. Number one, there's email. So we talked about Noah Jackson and how he had used email to kind of talk about and reflect on what the protocols were, what they were doing, how they were handling it as a farm. If you're going to email your customers, if that's what you choose to do, if you feel like you need to do that, I recommend that you just do it once. Do it once for now. If you haven't done it yet, I don't think it's too late, all right? You can take a few more days to think about and watch how things are developing, but don't be sending email after email after email, okay? Address it once. Another thought, if you're going to use email, is to really focus more in the email about something else, and then put the stuff about the virus in the PS section, because the PS is sort of like the, oh, by the way, kind of feeling to it. And then that sort of delivers the message, but it creates a different feeling for it. Okay. So that's just another little tip to think about. There's also social media is obviously another place where you could post about this very quickly, especially if you have a big following and they're watching your page a lot. Again, just address it once very simply, like the wine flight post that I talked about. But then after you've done it once, for the next 2 weeks, talk about something else. All right. Talk about anything else besides the virus. Business as usual, right? We want to show confidence that we're moving forward and that everything is going to be fine. Now, if things absolutely blow up in 2 weeks, then we'll have to reassess that. But I think for right now, let's just assume that we're going to get through this and it's going to be okay. All right. Here's another suggestion, and this is actually what we kind of did as a farm, sort of accidentally, actually. As part of your messaging, consider reaching out and showing generosity or showing compassion. Create some kind of goodwill. So a couple of days ago, we have this big high tunnel of spinach, and we just moved our high tunnel over to the carrots, above the carrots, and now the spinach is exposed. And the spinach is starting to yellow in some places, so we're like, you know what, we should just offer this to our customers and let them come and glean the spinach. So I made a little video inside our Facebook group for our CSA members, and I was like, hey, come and glean the spinach. We're going to disc it up in a few days, and we just want to offer this to you. Okay, so our community kind of went a little crazy, and there have been people coming out here gleaning spinach for the past 2 days. And the timing of that post was such that people, I think, felt like, wow, here's a place that I can come to and get, clean food, when there's other places in the grocery stores where the lines are an hour long at Costco, right? And everything's off the shelf. And here there's a place that's offering stuff for free in the open sunshine, open air. I actually had a woman a member post a picture of the spinach, and she talked about it in light of that. She's like, hey, here's what I'm doing for coronavirus. Like, I didn't even see that thought. She made that connection and connected the dots and posted that in our group. And so I was like, wow, that's really interesting. So that was just a moment where I was like, I'm going to be generous. I have food to share. Let them come out here and get it. And it's ended up making them feel like, wow, there's like a goodwill moment there happening in light of all this scarcity about our resources, right? Another way to think about this, though, is like, think about people in your community that might end up being in trouble because of the virus. Is there a way that you can be an agent of compassion or a catalyst that's going to help people? So can you have people collect stuff? Are you short on toilet paper, right? Like, everyone's taking toilet paper. I mean, I don't know what it's going to look like, but maybe start brainstorming, like, in a week's time, is there going to be a way that we as a farm can help people who might be in a situation? Or maybe you can deliver some food to elderly people who are more at risk. I don't know what this looks like, but just talk about that. We did, whenever was it, 2-3 years ago? I'm losing track now, but we live in the Toledo area, and I'm sure you heard about it on the news, but there was this huge water crisis because the algae bloom in Lake Erie, it affected the water supply of Toledo, and like all the water was contaminated and nobody could drink water, and so they like shut the water down, and everybody was running to try and get bottled water, and it was just crazy for like a week. And I remember during that crisis, we reached out to our members and we're like, hey, like, we have well water. I'm like, if you need water, come to our farm. We've got free water, and just fill up as many buckets as you can. Again, it was a moment of generosity and compassion, and we had lots of people come out and get water. And it ended up building some really great goodwill for our brand. So look for something like that. Is there a way for you in light of this situation where you can show compassion and communicate that, let people know that you're a servant and you're willing to help and you want to be a part of the solution. Again, what that does is it invites people into a bigger mission, right? They're not so focused on the scarcity piece, but now they're seeing the abundance, and they're not feeling like a victim, but they're feeling like they're a part of a bigger mission. Okay, offer an alternative to the saturated virus narrative, okay? As you're creating content over the next few weeks, I want you to really look for ways that you can talk about anything else but the virus, okay? Our newsfeed is saturated with that right now. I'm getting sick of it. Other people are getting sick of it. So contribute something else. Just tell what else are you doing right now? Are we getting ready for the spring? Talk about that, because people are going to glom onto that content. They're going to be so relieved to find something else positive in the newsfeed. So look for those opportunities. Be that escape route for them, okay? The escape story. And then I want you long-term, like 4, 6, 8 weeks from now, I want you to embrace your role as the wise farmer. Embrace your role as the wise farmer. What do I mean by that? 4 to 8 weeks from now, we're going to look back on this experience and we are going to be able to see some lessons. Things like, wow, how did that happen? How is our food system and our society supply chains set together so that these kinds of things can just happen like that? And what is the role? How is the local farmer a solution to helping that happening in the future? So we have an opportunity 4 to 8 weeks from now to reflect and tell that story and point people to the parable, to the lesson behind this situation. And so I want you to pay attention to the stories and the lessons that can be told in a few weeks. Pay attention to them and then make sure that you tell those lessons in 8 weeks. Point people to it, because this has the potential later on for you to make additional sales, for you to bring customers to you. I think this could potentially help, especially for us CSA farmers. This could help the CSA movement. It could help people suddenly realize, oh man, I am at risk a little bit. I don't know where my food comes from. I'm not sure of my supply chains, and I need to get to know my farmer, my local farmer, so that I can have some security here. And so we just want to be paying attention to what's happening over the next few weeks so that we can tell that parable story and find the nugget of truth in there and point it out to our members and to our audience. Okay, so don't be afraid to embrace the role of the wise farmer. That's not something that you can do yet, but it will be something you can do in a few weeks. And be sure you do it, because that's got potential for the long-term growth of your business. Okay, finally, my final thought. I want you to guard your mindset. Did you hear that? I want you to guard your mindset. So pay attention to the thoughts and the beliefs and the feelings that are going on inside of you right now that are causing you to feel a little like, what are those feelings? And then look at the thoughts that are driving those feelings, because some of those thoughts may frankly just not be true. It may be things that are being planted in your mind by the media, okay? So I want you instead to remember the things that are true. You are a problem solver. You figure things out. You are a doer and an action taker. And you may not be able to control circumstances or how other people feel, but you can control your own actions. You can control your own beliefs. And so I just want you to remember that you have power here. You have control. And this is probably not the last time that something like this will happen. So look at this as a good practice experience. And you're going to learn something along the way. And if you don't ace it, that's okay. You'll get better the next time around. So I always walk into new territory with a little bit of fear and a little bit of self-doubt. I feel like that's normal. If you're expecting fear and self-doubt to go away, sorry to disappoint you, but it's going to be there. So take it by the hand, look at it and say, hey, self-doubt, hey, fear, I'm not really sure what's going to happen here either, but I'm still going to move forward and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to do what I can to control this message and help inspire my customers, okay? You are in charge of the message of your farm and the words matter, okay? So believe that what you are the guide, you have control of the situation. So take that role on, show authority, they're looking to you, and invite them into a bigger mission. Tell them it's gonna be okay, I have a plan, but invite them into a bigger mission and you'll get through this. I wanna hear what you guys are doing. Share in the comments if you have a really great email or a great blog post or a great social post. Tell me what you've been using. What are the words that you're using to put together? I'd love to see them. And if you have some other thoughts, share them in the comments. All right, that's all I got. I hope that was helpful. I threw this together in like 30 minutes. You guys got this. We'll talk again soon. Bye.